Hey, this is Sam Black with my third match with Green-White Marvel in Standard. I'm on the draw here, and I have a totally solid hand. A removal spell to set up being ahead when I play Gideon. I have a bit of energy to maybe get this Marvel to work. I'm playing against a submerged Boneyard. So, Gideon and Marvel are looking good. Stasis Snare is looking not so great. My opponent plays Liliana, which is a pretty big problem, since I have no pressure. Play a Thrabin Inspector, which my opponent shrinks. Sack a Clue. And now I play Gideon, but unfortunately my opponent has a Void Shatter for it. Lily gets to tick up again. I try resolving a Marvel. My opponent has negate for that. I play another Inspector to try to threaten Liliana, but my opponent has a grasp for that, and ticks Lily up to 7. I play an Attune to get up to 4 energy, and then play a Marvel, or sorry, bait a counterspell with Vessel, which obviously doesn't work, and then play a Marvel, which my opponent has confirmed suspicions for, and now has a Liliana that's about to ultimate, and my hand is 2 Stasis Snare, so I'm not going to be able to win from there. So that's the first game. And then I'm on the play this game, and I get to make my deck quite a bit better in sideboarding, bringing in trackers over snares, for instance. So I'm going to play a Vessel, and I think I probably should have just resolved a second Vessel and a Thrabin Inspector. Well, it's close. No, it's not close. I think my thought process was that I wanted to Vessel to find a land so that I could have 3 mana to play Tracker, but I don't want to play the Tracker until I can Evolving Wilds anyway. So if I just play these two, then on turn 3, I can, if I don't draw a land, activate a Vessel on my turn to find a land, and then I've resolved these things, so I don't have to worry about them getting countered, and I have an Inspector to start attacking. So the plan of pass and activate Vessel here, I think, was actually pretty bad. But having passed, obviously activate the Vessel, find a hub, play a hub, and now I can play Smuggler's Copter this turn, which if I had played these two, I would not have both the land and a Copter, but that's just a lucky draw. And anyway, my opponent has negate for it, so now I play a Thrabin Inspector, pass, attack, and now clearly I'm going to play Tracker and Evolving Wilds, since my opponent didn't counter the Tracker. If they counter the Tracker, that's fine, I have more threats. And they grasp the Tracker, so I set the Evolving Wilds in response, and now I at least have a lot of clues to work with, which is going to let me present a persistent stream of threats. I'm going to play Vessel, that resolves. I don't want to let my opponent cast a Glimmer this turn, so I'll attack, see if that gets a bite, but clearly it's not going to, and then I'm just going to cast the Marvel, because I want my opponent to... I don't want to let my opponent Glimmer to find a counterspell if they don't have one. I'd rather play this to force an answer, and then use these things to find another threat. So my opponent Void Shatters, but the good news for me there is, while they had Void Shatter, they didn't have another land, So making them Void Shatter rather than letting them play a card draw spell that turn made them miss a land drop, likely. So now I'm going to attune, find a land, attack, play another threat, pass, and my opponent does have a Glimmer. So now they get to go back to making land drops. And I don't want to spend my 6th energy, so I'm just going to sacrifice a clue rather than using the vessel. And I just attack here, play another vessel, and I'm just going to pass and then spend this turn reloading. My opponent plays Liliana, uses it to neutralize the Servant of the Conduit. So I'm going to draw a card. Draw a card. Obviously I'm drawing first because it could potentially inform what I want off a vessel. Activate vessel and see a bunch of good threats. I don't have another land to play, which makes Tracker less appealing. I could take Gideon here so that I can play Gideon and Smuggler's Copter to resolve one of them through my opponent's 1 counterspell, but I have 5 card types and 8 mana, which means that I have enough to cast Emrakul, and my opponent only has 3 mana, which means they can't cast Summary Dismissal. So that means that I want to spend my next turn casting Emrakul. And given that I'm casting Emrakul next turn, but that my opponent has mana to counter it, I'd rather just have another Emrakul than any other threat to follow it up with. So I just take Emrakul. I draw an Attune, which I can cast first, because getting to make an extra land drop means that I still have enough mana to cast Emrakul. Oh, also Gideon gave me the 6th card type, so I don't need to use the Servant for mana. So Emrakul gets countered, but that's fine. I was just using this to be able to waste my opponent's resources. Attack Liliana. And now I take my opponent's turn, and my opponent doesn't have anything good for me to do with a Gear Hulk. I don't want to give them a 5/6 in play, so I'm just going to Ruinous Path Liliana. My plan had been to just Ruinous Path Liliana and pass, since the Gear Hulks kind of choke them on mana with the Anticipates, but after using the Ruinous Path I decided that given my opponent's hand, I'd much rather they have a land in hand than an Anticipate in hand, and I can probably find a land with Anticipate, so I decided to cast one. Probably should have cast it first given that, but it's really unlikely to matter. So anyway, I Ruinous Path Liliana and Anticipate, find a land. If I'd anticipated and found Transgress, it's possible that I would take the line of Anticipate, take Transgress, Anticipate again, probably take a land, Transgress a Gear Hulk, minus Liliana and take nothing, and then go from there, but that lets my opponent keep a Liliana. It's still kind of scary. Not sure which line would have been better, but this is fine, and this is where I am. So my opponent just plays the 7th land that I gave them to passes. So I'm going to attack to try to get my opponent to use mana so that I can resolve Emrakul. Don't really expect it to work. And then I'm just going to cast Emrakul. I know that my opponent can Gear Hulk a Void Shatter, but it deals with Gear Hulk, and then I can use the other Gear Hulk to Ruinous Path the first Gear Hulk, and then try to fight through just a Gear Hulk with Vessel and Copter and some creatures, and seems like I'm in pretty good shape from there. But as it turns out, my opponent drew really well for me, Ruinous Path and Transgress. So I get to Ruinous Path my opponent's Gearhulk and Transgress the other Gearhulk and waste the Anticipate. So really the best 2 cards they could possibly have drawn, to let me leave them with actual nothing. And then they pass, and I attune, play a Copter, draw from the clue, play a tracker, play a land, and now I'm way ahead with a lot of different kinds of threats, and so obviously I win from there. Then the third game, obviously I'm on the draw here. And I have a good hand, solid curve, good mix of lands and spells, good early threats, and a random Ulamog is a late game thing if we get there. Obviously it's not a feature to have an Ulamog in my hand, and drawing a second one is pretty bad. Also, getting my Tireless Tracker transgressed was not exactly what I was looking for, but I'm still making good early plays here. Get Copter down, attack. Obviously I don't want to let my opponent grasp a Copter here, so I just make other plays, attack. So the primary, what I'm going to use this Copter for is to dictate when my opponent has to tap mana to try to resolve my Aetherworks Marvel, which means next turn I can use Inspector to animate it to get my opponent to grasp it so that I can stick Aetherworks Marvel unless they have exactly grasp plus negate. And they play a tapped land, which means, oh, or ceremonial rejection. Ceremonious rejection. Anyway, I draw Gideon, which is a better threat here. So I take the same line of getting them to tap out so that I can resolve, and now because Gideon is a more immediate threat and can't get rejectioned, I leave with that, make a knight, and it's extremely hard for them to come back from Gideon, but they do have Ruinous Path to kill it, but now they're tapped out again so I can resolve Marvel. But I am down to 2 energy, but I have 3 creatures in play, and every time they deal with one of them I get another energy, and I can get an energy from this clue. So this is kind of the reason that Marvel works in this deck is in this kind of matchup you just don't need a fast Marvel activation for Marvel to still win the game. I can just play it with only energy from with only 2 energy left, and still have it be a very real threat. Now, admittedly, blue-black control is kind of the best case scenario for Resolve Marvel, but green-black is going to be a similar kind of spot. So my opponent minuses Liliana, which means I get to kill it and hit them and loot, get rid of an Emrakul, and I'm just going to play a Vessel here. I don't like playing Tracker when I can't get a clue immediately, although it's possible that in this spot I should have, because it dying means I get to activate Marvel, but also my opponent's at 5 and I'm so far ahead, which I guess isn't an argument in either direction very much, but especially since blue-black isn't really good at sweeping. I could have just played it, but I didn't. And yeah, clearly my opponent can't win from here at 5 life with 2 cards in hand against these things, where if my opponent deals with them I get to activate Marvel. So that was the match.